gentlemen, boys and girls, Fresh Road America. No, wait, Fresh Road Indianapolis.
Yes.
We are at the Brickyard, Indianapolis.
Welcome to the Whiskey and Slippers podcast. I will be your host, Helio Theodore Jr. 5000, and with me, as always, is Julio von Zanzibar and Dave.
Ooh, am I Dave?
I don't know. It's up to you guys to make. You guys pick your nicknames.
Okay, I'll do Julio von Zanzibar or whatever.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're Julio. I'm Dave.
Dave, just Dave.
Just Dave, no last name.
I'm having flashbacks
Actually,
to
Dave.
the last ACC commentary where we just called everyone Julio.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what was up with that. It was funnier when you just did the J's as Julio, but
well, Matt went a little overboard, so well, it wasn't fully Matt's fault, but Byron a couple episodes ago suggested that we just call everyone with J's Julio because I had such a hard time getting everyone's J name correct.
You really seem to only have a problem with Mr. Butler, actually. Everyone else, you're actually pretty on the ball.
Because everyone else is John.
Well, and I've had a weird hiccup, so that's fun.
Oh, they have little sector breakdowns. That's cool now.
We are currently 39 seconds remaining in qualifying, so if you just want to pause somewhere along the line up or there and alert us to when you are paused, I'll tell you when to hit play there, Byron. Unless the hiccup has you still relatively close to it.
I have no idea where 39 seconds is in qualifying is. So
Alright, just plop yourself kind of up the timeline and we'll tell you when to hit
I'm
play.
paused at 3 minutes in the video.
3 minutes in the video.
Okay, we're at 220 right now.
220 blaze it.
220 blaze.
It's only half blaze it though.
No.
On half of that. Oh god, I forgot there's only 3 teams.
There is only 3 teams. It's going to be a little bit problematic, but there's no better way of doing it.
That's a good point. Oh, disappointing crowd.
Just waiting for people to join the grid. Yeah, that's actually pretty empty sand.
For 255. 8, 9.
Go,
3
Byron.
minutes.
I have gone.
Excellent. So
Indeed.
hopefully we're in the ballpark.
3, 2, 1 in the garage there.
All right, so you're about 1 second behind us. That's
Yeah.
good. That's fine. We'll get the slightly delayed reaction out of you.
It'll be great.
It'll be like the audio wave of crashes.
All right,
Oh!
here we go. Christopher Streppen, Mike Stoppmill, Martin Edmonds, Sean Kinney, Wayne Hutchison, your top 5. Here we go.
Firestone Fast 5. Oh, Sean Kenny getting
And,
a terrible
Oh, they're all in the wall.
plugging up everyone. Ooh.
Indeed, Sean Kenny with a quite bad... Oh, carnage in the background.
We got a freaking Cobalt car backwards. But other than that, not a huge
If
amount
I
of
were to
chaos,
guess,
actually.
that is Douglas DeGroot, who is backwards in the Cobalt car.
Dougie DeGroat.
Indeed.
Grout.
Enrique Hervas making the overtake of Wayne Hutchison, who has apparently gotten off to a rather poor start. It looked good initially, but he's dropping back quite at an alarming rate. Wayne Medeiros holding up a couple of people there. Max Simons getting into it with John Barker, a little bit of side-by-side action.
We actually have a pretty good spread here. Like not too much space between the cars. Everyone got a pretty okay launch. I won't say it was a great launch, but at least
well, Robert Waddell and Douglas DeGroat would argue otherwise, as they are quite a ways off the back.
Well, I mean, you can't have everyone happy, unfortunately. Sometimes.
They may or may not have waddled their way into the wall.
Andrew Uniacki making it stick against Javi P there. Javi is a bit weak in that sector. We were talking about it while we were practicing, and I believe Andrew Uniacki making it pay there. Haven't seen anyone on the alternate tire yet, so it looks like a lot of primes here at the start.
Makes sense.
Martin Edmonds on the attack there. He's
shown
with only 7 push to pass left. That is probably inaccurate. I've been told that the push to pass numbers are not accurate.
So you might only have 3 push to pass left.
He probably has 9. Realistically, there's only one place on this circuit to use the push to pass, and that is the oval itself.
Looks like Barker went off.
Indeed, John Barker off and rejoining behind Andrew Uniacki. Yeah, there's really only one place worth using the push to pass, and that is on the banking. Because that is the only straight that is long enough to make use of all of it. Like, I thought that this straight here, the back straight, might be worth it. I did in practice.
10 seconds? Yeah, no.
Yeah, it's just not long enough. So, I mean, I guess there's like maybe like some super situational stuff to make an overtake happen, but realistically, you're only going to use one per lap, and it's going to be on the oval.
For those who aren't aware, push to pass is 10 seconds long, I believe, and it is 50 horsepower?
I believe it is 50, but it depends on the series.
Yes.
So Enrique Hervas on the tail of Richard Darouche. Looks like 3 Cobalt cars there, 4th, 5th, and 6th. It is and it's a Cobalt in the lead as well. UPS is Mike Stockmill in 2nd, and 3rd place to the bot car of Sean Kinney.
Javier Perez Torres asking, what can Brown do to you?
It's on the tail of fellow Academy driver there, Zach Hemstrom. Pretty strong Academy showing here today. We got Daniel Hernandez, Zach Hemstrom, Javi Perez Torres. We have James Butler, of course. We have Douglas DeGroat. And the eligible but has not elected to take up the Academy offer, Robert Waddell and Andrew Uniyaki.
That's a lot of hyphens.
The Uniac attack is back.
As I gotta say, as a man who just ate 11 tacos and then rode his motorcycle, I don't want to know what the Brown can do to me.
Whoa!
That you about to find out, boy.
Wayne Madero's putting a lot of pressure on Mr. Mole.
Gotta say, this is gonna be a kind of interesting battle for team lead. I'm not entirely aware of what the season stats are, where the points are.
Basically, Cobalt is, I believe, Cobalt in 1st, UPS in 2nd, and Bot is quite a way back in 3rd place. Wayne Hutchinson there, not helping the Bot cause as he loses a spot to Max Simons. Wayne's going backwards. He started P5 and he's down to P8, and it's not like something has happened. It just looks like he just doesn't have pace right now.
Generally a little bit slower.
One of the Cobalt cars there, a little bit off. Then Max Simons. Oh, well, there's Max Simons is on the alts. So Max Simons has got to make up ground now. While he's on those red sidewall tires. An aggressive move to go with them at the start.
I would argue it's probably one of the better, only really good times to use the alternates. Simply because of the close proximity, it's enough to launch you sort of past a lot of your opponents.
It is, but a bit of a spoiler and a minor one. And I can say this because we were pondering at the start. Mike Stockmill on the pressure against Christoph Verstappen, UPS versus Cobalt.
Looks like he's not using the push to pass to make it happen. Got the inside line, so Christoph's gonna have to kind of
slamming the door.
Ooh, that was tight. I'm not sure. Not sure that was entirely sanctioned, but it ended up working out this time.
I mean, I can't see it being a penalty, but it is definitely a risky move by Verstappen.
If there had been contact, it would have all been on Verstappen, I believe.
Indeed, one of the Cobalts off in the background. That is
Sean Kenny.
Dave.
Well, no, Sean Kenny's a bot, so
God damn it!
It's got to be Martin Edmonds, actually, judging by the growing gap, maybe. I'm not entirely sure. Of course, the timing glitch. Still a thing until we get some kind of micro patch.
I must be seeing double. Who's this guy?
This is me, Michael Magus.
There's an imposter.
Currently on the tail of James Butler, arch nemesis. Sean Kenny right up on the back of Mike Stockmill, and they're right on the back of race leader Christoph Verstappen.
So an interesting point that you made, that the push to pass is really only viable during. Ooh, we're going 3 wide.
We're going 3 wide. This could be.
One man of each team.
Whoa! Stop going around the outside. He's got it.
Verstappen.
No, Verstappen's door's open. Verstappen takes it back.
And we end up right where we started, ladies and gentlemen.
A couple of UPS guys having a fight there. If I'm Daniel Hernandez, I probably just want to get out of Moldy Moly's way, to be honest. Because Mole, of course, Division 1 driver, really solid guy. Daniel Hernandez, a very promising Div 3 driver, but still Div 3. You'd think you'd want to play the team game and let Moly get up there.
That's true. It's really interesting. Sometimes some of these higher division drivers can get, or I guess lower division technically, can be, it can get caught up in the moment a little bit, not really realize, whose team is whose, and maybe he's fighting a battle he doesn't want to be fighting.
Could be. In the
Well, back
meantime,
to our
the
lead.
battle for the lead continues. I think they're all on prime tires. I think we've gotten a look at that. I think
Prime time.
Simons, who is turning it in pretty well. Simons has overtaken Richard DeRouche
I
for
see this
5th place,
being
so he's on a charge.
I've seen this being a theme here on the front straight.
Indeed, this is one of the better overtaking opportunities. Please ignore the Facebook sound in the background.
I'm gonna start messaging you on Facebook nonstop now.
I'm gonna close it.
Damn it! Shouldn't have told him that out loud.
Stop
Before-
moving the-
there's a group
Trevor
chat of.
disappearing. What happened?
He
like
must
he-
have
oh, he-
gone off. Yeah,
He
he's
went
down
really
to 3rd
sideways
place.
there. First, you Facebook Messenger. Meanwhile, Zach Hemstrom, Moly, and Daniel Hernandez all in a fight with each other for UPS domination of the
Mole,
middle.
mole. Whoa!
Chip it.
That's Magus. Uh-oh.
What in the name of the fuck?
You saw... No.
Oh, I will be going off multiple times in the course of this race.
Bruh, you need to get you a wheelie bar.
These cars are a lot of horsepower to handle, a lot of turbo, especially on the low end when you hit,
Oh,
when
I
you hit
love
that
it.
turbo pickup.
Oh, really?
They're
Yeah.
really challenging to drive. Abuse of
Oh,
track
Sean
limits, Sean
Kenny.
Kenny.
Buddy.
He's a nutty boy.
So that will eliminate him from the equation a little bit. He already had, in
Yeah.
fairness.
Well, and Indy doesn't have a super long pit, but unfortunately is along the fastest part of the track, so that's where you stand to lose the most amount of time by either getting a penalty or pitting too many times.
Looks like he is headed into the pits to serve his drive-through penalty, judging by the fact that he is dropping through the field.
Smart choice. Get that out of the way early.
That means that the top bot racing guy is this man, Wayne Hutchinson, in just 8th place. So, not looking great for the bot crew.
Not amazing.
They are currently in 8th, 11th, 15th, and 16th.
Although we do have a couple of Cobalt cars back in the pack. I believe Butler and maybe Barker? No, I know Uniacke, right? No.
Uniacke is
No,
bot.
Uniacke bot, yeah. I think either Butler or Barker is
Of course, Bot, before the race began, Bot had problems. As Wayne
Hutchinson's making a
Hutchinson
cheeky
makes it
little maneuver.
stick against Daniel Hernandez, and Moly is also through. Although I have to ask the question, how did he end up behind Hernandez? So Hutchinson must have had him off at some point.
If this was about boats, would it be a robot?
I mean, it might.
I hate you.
Douglas DeGroat facing off with that could be Robert Waddell.
I was
And I
gonna say
think,
Robert.
and I believe we have lost Sean Kenny at this point. His engine expired on the
Ooh.
way out of the pit lane. Unfortunately,
You gotta uncap those things and give them a sniff, like.
yeah.
Oh,
Mole,
Oh no!
Mole, off the track.
Oh man, is his name actually Moly?
Yeah,
It actually probably technically is not. I think his real name actually is John Smith.
Oh. I agree. It was a good choice going with Moly.
Nah, a number of drivers do not race under their real name, which is perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Although, I
I was just curious.
do generally prefer a real sounding name, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, Car Heroes is another one. I mean,
Joe Racer is another
bad.
one.
Joe Racer, yeah.
Joe Racer is a weird one because everyone actually does know his real name, yet he hides it. It's kind of weird.
No, you don't. Shh. No one knows.
Kind of do, because
Oh, Zach Hemstrom.
he clearly signed up for Race Room under his real name and then decided he didn't want to show it.
Big old oof.
So Max Simon's up to 3rd on those alt tires.
On the alternates, yeah.
Those alt tires have got to be screaming for mercy though pretty soon, but he is up on the tail of Martin Edmonds.
Actually, I believe those are Anarchy tires.
It's
We
really
have,
Anarchy tires.
I think, seen a couple of pit stops. I'm just seeing some guys filtering much higher in the grid. I think we probably have seen a pit stop from Richard DeRouche. He's back down in 15th place now. So I think he has hit the pits. Sean Kenny, of course, had that drive-through, and I don't remember if he's still running, although, spoiler, his engine will give up.
Nudge,
Oh,
Whoa.
Andrew
nudge,
Uniacke.
nudge.
Got a little bit of lag fun going on.
Andrew Uniacke is without a front wing.
Oh, that lack of downforce is rearing its ugly head immediately.
As Michael Magus slipstreams up beside Javi Perez Torres and takes the spot.
No.
I think everybody should run with wheelie bars just in case they lose the front end and they don't have downforce.
These cars, of course, you've heard me say in previous commentaries, not aerodynamically sensitive. This is the opposite. They are incredibly aerodynamically sensitive. Any damage to that front wing will make these cars virtually impossible to drive.
Tune
Yeah,
in next
especially the
week
front
when we
wing.
race nothing but station wagons with V8 Hemis.
James Butler up to 8th place, so he's making progress. Again, I think some of that is pit stops.
Yeah.
Looks like Max Simons is in the pit lane now, which makes sense. He started on the alternate tires, of course.
Yeah, naturally. I gotta say, I didn't occur to me until just recently, but despite being Indy cars, Formula West, whatever, but they're Indy cars, the Indy road course does not play too well with them. They're very on this flat track. They're very unstable, and you don't have that
to
much
be
room to
honest,
get
the
downforce.
Indy
And when you do
road
get
course,
downforce, it's
the
on
Indy road
it's on
course doesn't really play well with anything.
That's a good point. But they need their downforce, and they don't get it for 80% of the track. And when they do get it, it's the one time they don't need it, and you're trying to go fast. So it's really almost diametrically opposed to the car design, and plus all that turbo lag, like you mentioned. And Mike Magus eating up his push to pass like it's freaking chocolate.
that is, I never got to 4 push to pass in the entire race, so that is incorrect numbers there.
What is up with this update and just ruining all the numbers for everything?
Well, no, the push to pass has been a long-standing problem. We noticed this in Academy when we did the Audi TTs because they have the push to pass as well. We had a similar one where we would like PM drivers after the race and be like, you know you can use push to, or you know that you don't have to use push to pass on the first lap, right? They'd be like, I didn't use any of it. But we'd be getting like,
Liar.
He's on the push to pass constantly. In fact, he's out of push to pass, and it would get ridiculous because you'd see guys using push to pass too close together because there's a cool off phase between push to pass usages, and people would be using them like way too close together. So that's been a long-standing problem. But yes, the timing problem is not particularly enjoyable, we'll put it that way.
I can dig on that.
And it's not just the spectator, actually, because I hadn't realized it for the longest time, but if you run WebHub, the third-party sort of data gathering thing, you'll get the same problem. The gap to the car ahead will randomly start growing. You'll be like, you're right ahead of me, but this says you're 25 seconds ahead of me.
So it's an internal thing.
Yes.
Might I recommend that they externally solve the problem then?
That can't really be done, unfortunately.
Yeah,
Bring somebody in.
Yeah, the ball is in Sector 3's court. They will have to fix the game or not fix the game, and the third-party things will just continue to have bad timing data.
I think they should bring in the Brother Muzone of coding.
Let's go. Oh,
Hello.
Not sure if Javi actually made any contact there with Max. He
Contact.
just lost it, and Javi off the track as well. So things turning bad for UPS there in a couple of turns. And in fact, Max regains the spot as Javi rejoins behind him. Christoph Verstappen, no push to pass according to the overlay.
User in your channel.
Probably not accurate.
And
We have lost by. All right. He'll be back. So I'm really not going to give positional rundowns at this point because the pit stops are really making this kind of like
And also, it hasn't
not
been long
really
enough,
a
I don't
thing.
think.
So James Butler battling with Daniel Hernandez. Now this is a legitimate battle for position, although it
Welcome
is
back, Byron.
not for 6th place.
Thanks. My internet didn't cut out. That was strictly a TeamSpeak thing.
Interesting.
Yeah, I was watching your audio cut out, and I was watching the lights on my modem going, are we going down? What's going on here, boys?
We're going down.
Ooh, dive.
So I think we can confirm that Sean Kenny is in fact out of the race. I was debating earlier whether we had gotten to the point where his engine died or not, but judging by his inability to make his way through the grid, I am going to say that his engine did die.
Correct.
I'm kind of curious about that. How do you blow up your engine in these cars? Don't they have the shift limiter?
So what happens is if you rev the engine in the pit lane too hard, either bouncing up and off the speed limiter or revving it in a pit stop.
We got a Cobalt car backwards.
One of the Cobalt cars off there. No one's dropping position, so that's probably Douglas DeGroat, who is off the track. But as someone who will, spoiler, blow his engine later, it's if you rev your engine during a pit stop, you will very quickly blow the engine.
Why rev it in the pit stop though?
Just kind of like a lazy habit, because a lot of the race room cars don't have a problem with it. So it's just a lazy thing. It's something you shouldn't do. There was a whole conversation in the Formula USA chat about whether they would actually blow up that fast or not, via Steve Carman's relative, who actually works in Indy Car with Smith Peterson Motorsport.
Hey, Smith Peterson.
The answer that we have is
Robbie Wickens.
probably it would not blow that fast, but it's a bad idea, so just don't do it anyways.
Yeah, better just to stay out of that zone.
So Robert Waddell has picked up a black flag for speeding in the pit lane.
That's a serious speed.
So that brings us down to 16 cars running on the track.
I gotta say, Smith Peterson is probably one of my favorite teams, or probably my favorite team in IndyCar. Just like between they got some real good drivers, and then also like it seems like their team is really level-headed, and they seem really props to was it Daniel Schmidt? Oh, what's his first name? I forget. But for when Robbie Wickens had his big crash last year at Pocono, for sort of taking him under his wing, and here's to hoping that Robbie gets back on his feet. No pun intended.
Indeed.
Next season. We're all rooting for you, Robbie.
I suspect we won't see Robert Wickens on the grid next season. So I've been following his recovery relatively closely. Obviously, Canadian driver, probably the best one Canada has produced in some time.
I mean, aside from Michael Matthews.
He's probably the guy who should have actually ended up in F1 as the Canadian in F1, as opposed to the Lance Strolls and the Nick Latifis of the world, who I kind of defend to a degree. But
was this about Lear Latifi?
Wickens, for those who are unfamiliar, he did really, really well in World Series by Renault, Formula 3.5 as it is now known. Or I don't think it exists now, but it became known as Formula 3.5. He won the title there, and it was not a no-name field because notably he beat Alexander Rossi, Jean-Eric Verne, and Daniel Ricciardo to that title.
At least one of his future rivals, and someone who would go on to be in F1 at least later on.
Well, all three of those guys made it to F1, although Rossi was very, very brief.
Oh, did Rossi get in F1?
Yeah, he raced for Manor for a little bit.
Yeah. That was a while ago. Okay.
So, like I said, very brief, but Jean-Eric Verne had a reasonable run in F1, and of course Daniel Ricciardo is still there.
Shout out, Ricky. Probably my second favorite.
So
driver.
It is to a degree disappointing that Robert Wickens never got a serious look in the F1 ranks, and of course the terrible accident that has left him slightly with some mobility impairments, which may prove to be the end of his at least single-seater career, I imagine.
Schmidt Peterson was talking about developing a hand control car a la Alex Zanardi, who was also a paraplegic that was able to get back into. He was racing GT3 cars. He raced the BMW M8.
Also, World Touring Cars.
Yeah, that too. He had a hand control car developed for him. They were talking about Daniel Schmidt, I believe is his name. I'm probably not getting that right, but one of the Schmidt-Peterson team owners and founders is actually paraplegic himself after having I believe it was a Champ Car crash back in the late 90s.
Indy Car crash.
IndyCar?
But, yes.
Okay. I'm probably...
It is Sam Schmidt.
Sam Schmidt, my bad. Dan, Sam, what's the difference? But anyway, I heard they were developing a car, maybe for him to use at some point. I've been following his recovery a little bit, Robbie's that is, but probably not as in depth as you. And so I don't know if they're actually going to have potential to run that.
Just a quick interruption. Daniel Hernandez has picked up a drive-through for speeding in the pit lane.
Yeah.
What a nerd.
But we've also lost a few IndyCar drivers over the past few months, just apropos of, there being a limited number of seats, plus McLaren's trying to get into the game, and Alonso and all that good stuff. Sebastian Bourdais, James Hinchcliffe, the like. So
I thought Bourdais had re-signed with Dale Coyne.
No. Well, he originally did, but they turned. Durushi making a run on Daniel Hernandez. Is that, I think? Yeah.
Hernandez has to make a drive-through penalty, so best get away. Javi Perez-Torres in the pits, and that is Michael Magus as well.
Mike Magus sabotaging Javi a little bit.
Well done, well played.
Wow, and myself.
Yeah, that's true.
Is this where you get bored and shift into fifth gear and just floor it?
Yeah.
No, this is not the problematic stuff. I do over rev on this one, but it only does like moderate damage to the car.
It only threw 2 pistons through the roof, no big deal.
We still got 4, don't worry about it, bud.
Wayne Hutchinson is cycled to the front of the pack, but that is pit stop artificial, I assure you. Christoph Verstappen out there on the alternate tires, so he's got to make up ground quick. He needs to be very forceful with these overtakes. I'm not sure who that is he's fighting with. It could be Moley. Probably Moley.
It might be Moley. It was a Cobalt car at least. This is potentially not that good for Verstappen. He's got a couple of cars in pretty quick succession. My apologies.
Mm-hmm.
He has to make his way past, and even with the alternates, it might be kind of a traffic jam to get through. He might burn up his alternate. Yeah, see, he hasn't even gotten through Moley after that first corner, getting
still
blocked.
Fighting with Moley. Now, mind you, he's got some Cobalt cars ahead of him. They might play nice.
That's true. Ooh. Especially on these chicanes here near the end of the road course.
Could be Richard DeRouche and James Butler, in theory.
Makes sense.
Mike Stoppmill has retaken the lead without Wayne Hutchinson pitting, so that's how far ahead he is.
Jeez.
So this is Richard DeRouche possibly coming up to James Butler. DeRouche's front wing looks quite mangled, actually.
It's fine.
Yeah,
it's supposed to be like that. It's ergonomic.
Yeah.
And Verstappen is still stuck behind Moley, wasting those alternate tires.
That is terrible news for Verstappen. Just getting a little too aggressive. That's
off
as well.
I would say that's more on Moley. I think actually, there was not outbreaking himself, just not really being aware of the other car. Like he just kind of turned in on Verstappen there. Verstappen had the overlap that I think it was a fair overtaking attempt, and I think that was Moley being a little bit too not necessarily aggressive, but a little bit unaware.
Yeah.
You're saying that he probably was not being malicious.
Yes.
Oh man. Someone's missing the front half of their car there.
Dale Coyne replaced Bourdais with Alex Palou.
Yeah. And as Bourdais is definitely my favorite driver. Who is this? Verstappen? Oh, that's not good for Verstappen. Burning his alternates and burning a pit stop.
Yep, that's a nose cone gone. I think that's any hope of him getting a win kind of out the door. Could still maybe factor in for a podium. Javi Perez-Torres overtaking Michael Magus for 9th place at the moment. These two are battling legitimately, although just not for the position that we are currently seeing them fight for.
But Bourdais got replaced, but he does have a ride with I forget which team, but it's one of the Cadillac Daytona prototype cars. They're going to actually be racing at the 24 Hours of Daytona coming up in a week and some change.
Indeed.
So,
looking forward to Daytona as always.
That'll be fun, yeah. Got a lot of new cars that no one's seen before. The new Porsche 992, I think. Is that the number? I don't remember. But it's a new 911. And you got the new Corvette C8, of course.
Mm-hmm.
That screaming.
Looking forward to the
5.2.
C8. That'll be intriguing.
Mm-hmm.
C7 was a very strong car, its predecessor, so hopefully the C8 builds upon that success.
From what I've seen, it looks to be pretty vicious. I'm a little bit curious as to why they did such a radical change from the C7, considering it was working so well. But they have confidence, and from what I've seen in the Roar, it's going okay, at least.
To be honest, also it has to be said that the C7 is, well, the Callaway in general is one of the hardest GT cars to gauge where it actually is. Because kind of like it's the anti-Ferrari in the sense that with Ferrari always seems weaker than it really is because you have a lot of actual privateer teams running it and there's very little factory support towards the GT projects. So you're very much seeing the strength of the teams, not the strength of the car. Callaway's kind of the opposite in the sense that almost all the C7s are run by factory-supported Callaway operations. So it's actually kind of hard to figure out where the car fits in the hierarchy of GTs, as it were.
That's a good point. I didn't consider that, but that makes sense.
That is always the problem, is you got to look at who's running the cars, and that will tell you something. Because if all good teams are running a car, and that car is not, like, just blowing things away, probably says some bad things about the car.
That's an interesting point. Also, shout out to Risi Competizione and their PWC efforts, doing very well this season. Look forward to if they come back to my home city of Portland. Doesn't look like it, but fingers crossed. Anyway,
maybe if they put a bird on it.
If they put a bird?
Portlandia joke.
It looked like Mike Stopmill might have to work for this one, but unfortunately with Sean Kinney's retirement and Christoph Verstappen's problems, it's looking increasingly unlikely.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Mike's computer just fell over and killed him. R.I.P. Mike.
That was a fork. Thank you very much.
Mike is all forked up.
Fork into a computer? Wow.
No,
that's his jumper for the fuse box.
No, I'm just lazy, and the bowl that I was eating dinner out of is still here with a fork in it.
Jeez, man, do what I do. Keep a cooler next to your desk for beverages, and then you just put dishes on top.
That's a genius idea.
I don't have.
And I can use it as a nightstand.
Hell yeah, you can. And if you put ice packs in there, it keeps all your beverages cold.
I use the racing rig as a nightstand.
And it's eco-friendly because you're not running a whole fridge.
My racing rig is at the foot of my bed, and my desk is at the head, kind of on the side.
Yeah, so... I'm in a rather similar problem. There is not a lot of room in this room. So Mike Stopmill coming up to a Cobalt car to lap it that could honestly be just about any of the Cobalt cars.
John Barker going with the alternates. I almost called them alphas for some reason. Going with the alternates. That's kind of an interesting choice considering he's not fighting any two particular battles. And
I mean, you can still get some good laps in if you want to do a short second stint, because there's no need to. This is a 2-stop race, but it's not a full fuel 2-stop race. If you get my drift.
Yeah.
Calculations were about 169ish, and you have a 70-liter pit thing, so that'd be 1 stop of 70, 1 stop of, let's say, 30 liters. So there's some flexibility what you can do with the fuel mileage.
Makes sense.
It depends on what you feel like. Personally, I was not particularly inclined to go with alternate tires at any point, just because they burned up about twice as fast, so you get half the life. And the pace advantage just wasn't really there, to be honest. Just wasn't a lot.
Because on the infield section, you would think they'd be absolutely amazing, but I guess
I thought that as well. But if you look at like lap times, doing practice with primes versus practice with alts, it's just it wasn't enough really to justify it. But I mean, of course, that's all dependent. If someone else is finding that lap time, that absolutely can work. The other problem, though, was that it was hard to get just one short stint in because these tires were wearing quite quickly.
Yeah.
The degradation around this circuit is quite high. And as a result, you almost didn't really want to go deep into a run with that 70-liter fuel tank, for example. You almost wanted to do 3 equal stints, and that would involve going prime tire, and prime tire, which kind of eliminated the alts. But that's just my thoughts and some of the things I've gathered from some other people. Obviously, there may be some other thoughts. Obviously, there is some other thoughts because Max Simons, of course, did the alts at the start. And he's up at 3rd place, so that's worked out pretty well for him. And, of course, we see John Barker rocking the alts right now.
Mike, I need you to alert the Big Doug for a gimmick change.
Okay.
I need there to be a prime tire Elix skipper.
Oh, Elix skipper.
Look, Indy Car gimmick. Come on.
You got any more of those cage walks?
Prime tire Elix skipper and spark plug Bob Holly.
There we go.
Or we'll just go all the way back to Sparky Plug. We'll have like the Indy Car tag team.
Well, Sparky Plug was NASCAR, so IndyCar NASCAR tag team.
I don't.
Yeah,
you kids and your weird circle turning.
I mean, if you consider this a circle, then I think you might need some new glasses.
I'm more referring to the NASCAR.
Yeah.
The only race series in the world where you can literally be replaced with a piece of string and a brake. We're just going left. Okay, tie the steering wheel and drop the brick on it at the start. Go.
Not strictly true. You got to be able to react to stuff in NASCAR.
No,
Pile-ups
I
always.
watched Talladega Nights a couple times. I understand. They don't know what to do with their hands.
If you're French
Richard
enough, you will.
DeRouche is hunting down Zach Hemstrom, but I don't think that these guys are on the same pit strategy. So this is kind of a weird one. DeRouche cut his first stint really, really short with a pit stop because I think he messed up his front wing. You can see that it still bears the slightly
Well tweaked.
damaged model. And I think he's actually I think Hemstrom's actually a pit stop behind DeRouche, so that's a bit of an interesting conundrum.
Also of note from earlier, we were talking about alternates versus primes. I just remembered Verstappen was having a pretty big problem getting by Moly.
Indeed,
while
I
he
think
was on
that
alternates,
that really ruined his alternate run and forced him to make a second pit stop for tires. Well, for damage, and I assume he took tires as well.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he's not running alternates anymore. But,
DeRouche into the pits, so maybe I was wrong on the whole pit stop being ahead, because DeRouche is back into the pits. I was thinking he'd already done 2 stops. I guess it's possible this is actually his 3rd stop. Because with how early he pitted, he would have to be on a 3-stop strategy to make the gas work. Mike Stockmill going around the outside of one of the UPS cars, dutifully getting out of the way of their team leader. Michael Magus still battling with Javi P. And going around the outside into turn 1 and makes it stick for what is currently 8th place.
Is it 8th place though? Or are you posing an existential question? What is
It
8th place?
probably is more like 10th place when you get all the pit stops out of the
But,
way.
I mean, what is 8th place to you?
A really solid result.
Fair enough.
But I imagine, and this is of course the very difficultiness of this, that myself and Javi are probably behind Richard and probably behind Moley when it comes down to it. So we're probably really fighting over 10th. Wayne Hutchinson on the attack against Hemstrom, who is one of the most out of position guys, because of course at the start of the race he was battling down at the lower end of the top 10 and is currently running in 5th. So he's on, I think, an alternate strategy that doesn't really line up with everybody else. Which could actually mean that me and Javi are fighting over 9th place, because we could be ahead of Hemstrom, technically.
Well, I mean, he is Scottish.
Here comes Richard DeRouche battling with Moley. And
Going
he
ham
looked,
on the inside.
He looked to the inside, thought better of it, and then
Ooh.
went to the inside again.
Looks like Molly just outbroke himself a little bit, which might have actually saved him the position, because it caused him to have to kind of cut in hard and block Darushi without even thinking about it.
We've seen Molly be a little bit more defensive than is probably healthy for himself.
Well, it's definitely not healthy for his lap times, but it seems to be saving him some positions, at least in his battle with Darush and with Verstappen.
Yeah, but I would probably say that's fighting with a faster car at this point in the race is probably just going to cost you in the end. Ooh. As Michael Magus running in 7th place. Not sure who we overtook.
Javier?
No, Javi was for 8th. Hemstrom's in the pits, so we're picking
I believe you
now.
may have passed Waddell.
Oh, you know who it is? You know what it is? Max Simons has completely disappeared.
Oh.
What a scrub.
Wow.
He was up in 3rd place, and
abducted by aliens.
He appears to have been abducted by aliens.
I know he was complaining about the ACC. His Wi-Fi went out, to which we all were questioning why are you using Wi-Fi.
I've told him a couple times.
Yeah. Oh, my Wi-Fi went out. Maybe you shouldn't be in a lead-shielded room. Just,
He needs to trade his Wi-Fi for a waifu.
That would be ideal, and not just the pillow.
Yes.
Hirosh and Moldy fighting over 9th place still. Interesting that it has not replaced the damage there model on Richard's car there, because he's clearly moving as if he has a healthy car.
Yeah.
But he definitely has that screwed up wing still on it.
Well, it depends on. I found in this game it depends on when you have when how many cars you have on screen at a time. If a car is unloaded when he gets the damage repaired, obviously the handling will stay, fixed because it's client side, but the server won't recognize that his
It's
error
odd
fixed.
that this isn't the case, because of course we've had this before. We had Federico Zvanger most famously at Hockenheim running around with no wheels on the car, but still, moving. But usually it's only high ping guys who have that particular problem, and of course Richard is pretty close to the server. As Molly retains position there against Darush. Also, at some point there, we had a overtake by Christopher Streppen on John Barker. That's what I was going to bring up.
Shout out to the Dallara DW12 Mark II, the Indy Car that all these guys are running. In my calm subjective opinion, even though it is a little ridiculous looking, it is probably the coolest looking race car.
It is.
The newer
definitely
ones are a
up there.
little bit pretty. The new ones are a little prettier, but I like the Mark II just because they got the ridiculous kind of aero bits going on. The like the 2004 series of Formula One were the same way. I just like all the little ridiculous little aero bits they put on. It makes it look so aggressive. And kind of a boy racer, right? I'm a huge fan.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to Dallara. You do good work.
They do. Definitely pretty much the best chassis maker in the world.
Did you hear
outside
that?
of F1.
Did you hear that? NASCAR might be moving to Dallara produced NASCAR chassis. Like
I'm not really sure how that's going to look, to be honest.
I'm just confused overall. Like, I thought the whole sort of, the sort of battle cry for NASCAR is that it's
Stock car racing, man.
yeah, stock car racing. I mean, ignoring the fact that they're basically as far from stock as you can get while still looking like a box. But yeah, they might. I think they're also doing hybrids potentially in the future, which is just gonna make so many rednecks angry.
Oh,
I
probably.
want them to run on steam engines.
Yep.
Steam engine.
Richard
GGG,
Darush
Richard,
with
what
a drive-through
Drive-through
penalty for
penalty.
speeding in the pit.
Richard
I don't know,
Daruche, please report to the pit lane for a paddling, you naughty boy.
All of a sudden, the move that Magus made when getting into his pit lane makes sense. But someone going off John Barker.
That was John Barker, I think, made a straight right-hand turn or left-hand turn off the track.
Yep, I think he was maybe thinking this was Daytona for some reason. But
Of course, At this point, I don't even know who's where, to be honest. I really don't. Mike Stoffnell's in the lead. This I know.
I'm
It's
inside
pretty
because
safe
it's too
bet.
cold out there.
But everybody else, there's just a lot of different pit phases going on here right now.
Yeah, best to just not think about it. That comes from making a pass on Moly.
I think Moley made that quite easy for him, which makes sense. They're UPS teammates. Also, I believe Hemstrom is recently out of the pits, so he is on cleanish tires. One of the Cobalts there, falling a lap down. Best guess that was probably Douglas DeGroat. Could also be John Barker, though, in theory.
I have football news for anybody who wants it.
Sure.
Your boy Luke Kuechly has retired.
Wow. Following Andrew Luck.
Yep, he, quote, I know, in my heart, I know it's the right thing to do.
Well,
Had to
whatever
endure
that
a
means.
pretty poor season in Carolina this season, so.
Yeah, well, I mean, it says he was like 28. So, 7-time Pro Bowler is 28?
It's called linebackers.
Yeah, fair enough, I guess, but wow.
Hey, when you make like $8 million a year, yeah, you can retire pretty early.
Oh shit, I'd retire after my rookie goddamn contract was up. Hell yeah. I'm
Yeah.
not taking that kind of abuse. I'm not dumb.
Or you could pull a Brett Favre and just keep on trucking no matter
Just
what.
Iron Man until you're too concussed to not send dick pics.
Well, I remember, I remember, like a while ago, people were like, blasting him for still just sticking around, and I know looking up the numbers, like if someone was paying me that much, I couldn't give a damn what anyone thought. I'm just gonna keep on milking that.
Oh, yeah,
son of a
no,
bitch.
I mean, if people are willing to pay you, to be honest, Brett Favre's post-Packer career wasn't all that bad. I mean,
No,
started really, really well with the Jets, although towards the end it got bad and they missed the playoffs.
yeah.
Had a really good season in Minnesota, and
I was gonna say the
then-
Vikings treated him well.
And then Javi Perez Torres, Michael Magus, and one of the other UPS cars in the pit lane.
Is this where you rev it up to 19th gear and blow your fucking head off?
Nope, this isn't it either. This
Do
is
you wait for like the last lap and go in the pits
this
and blow yourself
is where I fuck up coming out of the pits and run into the pit wall.
up? Oh, that seems good. And then the next one you blow it up.
Yes.
All right. Chain of evidence has been secured.
I guess this would be the one reason why you would. There I am with no front wing because I've hit the pit wall.
Oh, that's the.
Yeah, when you come out of the pits,
Lachlan!
when you come out of the pits, the car wants to buck like a Bronco because that's when the turbo is kicking in, and if you're not careful, it will take you into the pit wall. I was not the only one to get bit by that.
Our own poor Daniel Hernandez getting held up by someone. Magus.
That is
It's on
Magus.
Michael Magus.
Mike, I need you to put him in the wall.
Oh, looks like someone put
And
himself
one
in
of
the
the
wall.
Cobalts off. Whoa! There's
Hello,
there is a
Shirley.
Cobalt
Is that
who is
Hervas?
sans a
No.
front wing.
Oh, everyone's going off. It's a party.
You will not find Ricky Spanish in the wall,
That
sir.
probably is, in fact, Enrique Hervas.
No!
You're probably correct.
No! I refuse to believe it. Ricky Spanish lives forever.
Mike
And,
Magus
and
going
needless
on
to
the-
say, these cars do not drive well without a front wing.
They really don't drive well on the dirt.
Honestly, didn't find that the dirt was even any worse than the pavement, to be honest. The pavement was that bad.
This just in. Dale Coyne Racing now signing up for the Baja 1000 in their Indy car next year. On the behest of Mike Magus here.
Hell yeah!
I mean, it won't do well. I'm just
Oh,
saying.
you
that-
cured.
I'm just saying without the
See-
front. I'm just saying without the nose, these things don't handle any better on the pavement.
What I'm saying is,
I mean,
you
if
get
they
one of these
have-
Indy cars, you give it like a 3.5 foot lift kit and extended axles with giant mudder tires, you'd do pretty well.
Yeah,
I feel like we may have lost Richard DeRoche.
Maybe.
from the race.
he's out of there.
He had a
Yeah.
couple of penalties, and I believe he may have called it quits.
Well, he's behind DeGroat now, so that means he
That-
has to be.
That would suggest. Well, DeGroat is still running.
Oh, is he running?
Yeah.
Oh.
He's just
Well,
he's
still.
just by far last place.
No.
So I believe we've lost Richard at this point. We will lose me shortly.
Oh yeah, dropping down to 13th.
AVP, 7th place. AVP having a good race.
Yeah, he clawed his way back up a little bit.
I say the apothecary has given him the proper potion for this evening, eh, sir?
Moving into 6th place there as Enrique Hervas hits the pit lane.
How did we go from such a cool word as apothecary? Holy balls! Apothecary. There we go.
The pharmacist.
To pharmacist. That sounds
Nerds.
It sounds,
This is
it
nerd
sounds like
shit.
a pharmacist sounds like a disease.
Because when the idea of like pharmaceuticals started to become a thing, apothecaries were kind of anti-pharmacists. So
Well, they should have become apothecaricals instead of
That-
pharmaceuticals.
that would have worked better.
Is that the feeling you get when your balls itch really bad?
I got the apothecaricals.
Yeah, apothecaricals.
This
Look
is
at the apparel.
Moly Moly fighting with
Oh,
John
like
Barker.
race cars.
I got the apothecaricitis.
Ooh, I hear they make a pill for that now.
Indeed, they do.
And Mike
called
Stockmill, of
weed.
course, pretty much has lapped the entire field at this point, I think.
Allegedly, has used up most of his push to pass. Doing what? I'm not confident. I'm not confident I know, but
Going for fast laps, I guess. I don't know.
could be.
Javier Perez Torres. That might be James Butler ahead of him, and that might be for position, but of course, always a bit questionable with the bad timing day that we have.
You never know.
Mike Stoffmill currently 5 hours ahead of anybody known to man.
This is not a 24-hour race, so that'd be a tough sell.
Maybe we should have one.
5 millihours?
I don't think you could get much of a field to commit to a 24-hour race.
I know Travis would be down.
I don't understand why games don't have like the ability to swap drivers.
A lot of them do. Race Room just doesn't.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
Travis does
I've
numerous
tried it in-
24 hours races.
You can do it with iRacing. You can do
Yeah.
it with ACC.
I've tried an R Factor, but the button doesn't do anything.
I think you have to have everything to go right. I have no idea. Maybe the moon's not in the right house.
I've only ever once done the multi-driver thing, and it was a long ass time ago with a game that probably no one really wants to play anymore.
Is it F1 on the Super NES?
No, not that bad. No.
Shout out to Daytona Racing or whatever on the Sega Dreamcast.
Fair enough. Shout out to NHL 99 on literally any system because NHL 99.
Shout out to Grand Prix Monaco on the
Grand Prix
N64. Love that one. Highly
Shout out to-
customizable. You got to name the drivers whatever you wanted, name the teams whatever you wanted. It was great.
Shout out to Richard Burns Rally.
Cole, maybe I can get you on side here. I've got this idea that everybody shot down so far.
Okay, I'm all
We
ears.
need to organize. Somebody needs to put this together digitally. The Macau to Krakow rally.
I'm gonna need a little more to go on than that, buddy.
No, that's it. Like really.
Macau to Krakow. So just
Yeah.
do Macau, but you got.
No, you start in
cocaine
Macau and you end up in Krakow.
Is that way? Is Krakow a place?
Krakow is the capital of Poland. I'm gonna say.
No, not the capital.
Not the capital.
That would be Warsaw. You're thinking. Of.
Oh right, yeah. Warsaw.
But
my bad.
Krakow is indeed a place in Poland.
Krakow.
Macau to Pol. How would you even
Yeah.
do that?
That's not my business.
Okay.
Just
It'd
do it or
be
not.
like it'd be like the car version of a triathlon.
It'll be Death Race 2000, but digital. If you haven't watched Death Race 2000, you really should.
I have.
Excellent.
Isn't Macau? Isn't there like a body of water between Macau and?
That's not my business.
You could ferry it across, like it wouldn't.
But you have to be
get-
racing. You have to do laps on the ferry
On
the
the
whole
ferry.
time.
I mean, there are already
Or get
rally.
racing ferries.
There are already rally stages that do involve crossing a body of water in a manner that a car can't actually do.
You just got to drive so fast you can skip across all the water. I mean, that seems fair.
There's probably some kind of bridge also that links up.
Oh, that's boring.
So we have lost Michael Magus at this point, so we're down to 13 cars.
They're dropping like flies.
Congratulations to everyone. Congratulations to everyone that is still going, because this was not an easy race to finish.
Mike, when you dap your guy who's doing the tires, you're not supposed to literally blow it up, okay? I'm just putting that out there.
The tires weren't the problem.
It's more referring to the explosion of your engine, but go on.
The engine blew up, yeah. If you want to get technical, losing my front wing was a big part of it.
Well, I mean,
Mike,
that sounds like a bad idea.
The crack goes in you, not in the engine. How many times I gotta tell you this?
I think we actually have a battle for fourth going on here between these three cars. That is, I think, Butler.
James Butler
and then Javi Perez Torres. And then that is Enrique Hervas.
Enrique.
We need confirmation that that is actually Butler ahead of them, but I think that is the case.
It seems reasonable. Well, maybe. Who knows?
All I know is Mike Stoffmill is literally 9/10 of a year ahead of everybody else in this race.
I mean, probably.
You could stop, take a nice vacation in the Seychelles, and come back and still win the race.
Probably.
You could go cut a commercial for Papa John's, come back, and still swerve across the line in style.
We had the ultimate Mike Stoffmill humble brag today. Me and him were practicing for the Zolder race that's coming up tomorrow.
Wait, is that a humble brag on a humble brag?
Speaking of, before I finish this, there was actually a really nice overtake there by Mr. Hervas.
Ricky Spanish up in this.
And they're going past a bot car, which there are only 2 bot cars still circulating, so that is probably Andrew Uniacki. But anyways, the humble brag was, holy moly, fighting with Daniel. God damn it, people! Stop interrupting my story.
Oh, the first turn can be a pretty tricky overtaking place, considering how well it is set up to not be laid out for overtaking. So if you outbrake someone or brake too hard, or even if you take
but a lot of overtakes do still happen at turn 1.
Oh, they do. They're just harder to execute, and I at least find that the overtakee gets overtaken again. Once or the overtaker gets overtaken in turn 2 or 3.
Not in this case, though.
Not in this particular case, yes.
Some Cobalts fighting. That's Hervas and Butler. And
Hervas can really antsy.
Yeah, I do know, and I do know from personal experience that Enrique Hervas tends to not care a tremendous amount about you being your teammate. He will attack.
At least Cobalt's got a good championship standing.
Indeed. Well, I mean, they're doing really well here. 2nd, 4th, 5th.
No, but even if he
10th, they're all Cobalt.
Even if he demolished Butler and himself, they'd be okay.
Whoa.
Javi P, forgetting which pedal's the brake one. It's not the one on the far left.
Overcooked it a little bit, but anyways, he was going over a turn that I was getting wrong a fair bit because I hate Zolder, so that's pretty much every turn on the track. And I'm riding on board with him, and he's like, all right, here we go. And he messed it up a little bit, what he was trying to show me, and he's like, see, it's really difficult because even I can fuck it up.
Hashtag humble brag.
So Mike Stoffmill bringing it on home. Not sure who that is in the shot with him. It's a lapped UPS car. Pick one, frankly.
I'm surprised that do they not have a DHL car in this game?
Not sure.
Shout out to Ryan Hunter-Reay. Shout out to doing shout outs unnecessarily.
Ryan Hunter-Reay, I believe, was the last ever kart race winner in the Reynard chassis. So, when he won for American Team Spirit in Surface Paradise.
You do want to say that, don't you?
I mean, I don't derive any specific pleasure from it. I just believe that is the case.
Nerd!
So I think that is Zach Hemstrom behind Stoffmill because he's coming up to Javi Perez Torres, so...
Whatever you do, don't drink and derive.
it would make sense.
Whoa, you're just saying if I drink and drive, I'm gonna do just as bad as I would when I was sober, so it's not gonna make any difference.
Fair enough. Just don't drive at all. How's that?
Math sucks.
I was gonna say, I think maybe Douglas DeGroat might actually be out of the race, but he is still building up laps on me, so that presumably means he is still circulating.
He's hanging on somehow.
Hey, I mean, you finish 13th, you get points. You DNF, you get nothing.
Yeah. No, I'm not arguing that.
And Bot will fall further off the pace here today, despite a very solid effort by Wayne Hutchinson, currently in place for a third place finish.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
But his only teammate who is still running is Andrew Uniacke, as we have lost Sean Kenny, Michael Magus, and Wayne Medeiros,
and
we lost
12th.
And we lost Travis Wallace, the other bot car, before the race even started because his steam broke. Well, his race room broke.
So it seems like their fate is kind of sealed.
Plenty of time left. I have resigned from the team. I am really just a hindrance to it. Jeff Roulette will be taking my place. Also good to get Jeff on the grid, because Jeff's a good driver. He was a bit wasted chilling on the reserve list, so good to have him aboard.
Yeah.
Of course, we have the reserve list because, of course, when you're doing a team series, you got to keep the team somewhat balanced. So late joiners were just put on the reserve list.
Injured reserve or regular?
Well, they're not injured, so regular.
I could injure them.
You
Go
could.
nuts, buddy.
Meow.
Javi P on the charge wants to get past James Butler.
For some reason, I thought I was going to hear, user has left your channel.
User has left this race.
Now, an interesting bit here, because that's Mike Stoppmill making his way through there in the other UPS car. He could, in theory, lend Mr. Javi a hand by maybe forcing James Butler a little wide when he goes for the blue flag.
Yeah, that's a good point. Or putting him in the wall.
We'll see if the UPS crew does any games here, because they, of course, are in a pretty good battle with Cobalt, despite the fact that Mike Stoppmill as a driver is dominating, but there's just no other Cobalt drivers really lending him a tremendous hand right now. Or pardon me,
They're gonna have at least
cars.
they're gonna have one more lap, so he's got some time to do some head fucking.
So the breakdown of the teams right now, we got Mike Stoppmill leading the way for Team UPS. He has Javi Perez Torres, Zach Hemstrom, Daniel Hernandez for company. And then we have the Cobalt crew, which is most of the surviving cars. Martin Edmonds, Enrique Hervas, James Butler. Moly Moly is also UPS, so I forgot him. Christopher Streppen is Cobalt, John Barker, and Douglas DeGroat. And then, of course, the two bots like we were talking about before, which is Hutchinson and Uniacke.
So we're about halfway through the last lap.
So
Looks
Javi
like
needs to get by soon.
Javi's got a definite time limit on his actions here.
Man, this is the guy who has to be cursing his luck. The what could have been. Christopher Streppen, the race pole sitter, was leading the race at one point. Back in 10th right now. Zach Hemstrom running in the alts, and Javi's off the track and has lost a spot. So
that's end of Javi's race.
That would probably mean that Butler is safe in that 5th place. No impact on the team's title though, because Hemstrom and Javi are teammates. So really, they just flipped which UPS car is in 6th place. And
that's
we
the end of the
are
race there, at
complete.
least.
Mike Magus finishes in no place.
I mean, technically 14th, but I will score 0 points.
Well, might I recommend getting your restless leg syndrome under control, sir?
Wayne Hutchinson finishing on alternates. That must have been an interesting pit strategy. Maybe he's trying to make it up on Edmonds at the last second.
I think that the prime alternate strategy was one of the options. You could also go triple prime. I think Mike Stoppman went triple prime. which
I'd probably go triple prime, but if I was going to
is
go alternate, I'd probably put those on at the beginning.
I wouldn't, because there's too much. There's too many variables at the start of the race, because keep in mind, you're on the alternates. This is the most likely time you're going to make overtakes, so that's an argument for it. But it's also the most likely time you're going to get stuck in traffic or get your nose broken.
That's
So,
true. I would use this because you get overtakes. So B, you could if it's easier to make the use of what room you are allowed.
Well, Martin Edmonds actually did finish on the lead lap, so Stop Mill did not lap everybody.
Oh, nice.
Ha-cha-cha.
Oh, I forgot Waddell was
So,
disqualified.
Stop Mill, Edmonds, Hutchinson, Hervas, Butler, then the UPS train of Hemstrom, Perez, Torres, Moley, and Hernandez, Verstappen, Barker, Uniacke, and yes, 5 laps down, but he made it to the end. Douglas DeGroat out of the race. Max Simons, Wayne Medeiros, Michael Magus, Richard DeRouche, Sean Kenny, and the DQ for Robert Waddell.
That's quite a crushing defeat for Christopher Verstappen. Still made it up to 10th, but what an unfortunate turn of events. How the mighty have fallen.
I will give a standings update real quick here before we call it an evening. Assuming that Martin has them up to date. And he does. Okay. So, driver standings on the strength of his 2 wins. Mike Stoppmill leads the way from Wayne Hutchinson, Enrique Hervas, Christoph Verstappen, John Barker, Moly, James Butler, Javi Perez Torres, Daniel Hernandez, Division 3 driver up in 9th place, and Martin Edmonds. That is your top 10 in the teams battle. The teams have all been named. I see this. This is Martin. It's cute. Team Freedom leads the way with 510 points. That is the Cobalt Boys. 416 for Code Brown, which is UPS, and 234 for Team Overrevved, which is, of course, myself and Sean Kenny for blowing up our, engines. We are Team Bot.
Love you, Martin. That's a good choice.
Divisional leaders are John Barker in Div 2 and in Div 3, Daniel Hernandez. And team changes for round 3. Jeff Roulette has joined the bot team. I believe nobody else. Oh, wait, there is also a change on the UPS team. Steve Carman has joined the UPS team. I don't know who is booking out for them. I think it's Wesley Stokes.
The return of the cyborg?
I think Wesley Stokes has said that he is not going to compete, so he would be the one that Carman is replacing.
Are you telling me that we will get to see Steve the Cyborg Carman race for the first time in well over a year?
Has it been a year?
At least.
Oh, well then, yes.
Excellent.
All right, gentlemen, do you have anything else you want to say to the crowd?
Buy low, sell high.
That too.
All right, we'll see you for round number 3, and upcoming we'll have the re-debut of 3D Speed coming up tomorrow from Zolder.
It's all Vespas.
USA.